welcome to today's lesson. It's good to be back. I feel like I've taken a short little break from these live lessons, but I'm glad to be back, and I have a fun lesson for you today. It's a little bit of a quiz lesson. I am going to see how well you know some of your three-word phrasal verbs. And I think, just to go ahead and show you my little slide where it has that scary emoji face, I think when learners think of phrasal verbs, it can be a little scary because the meaning, that many of them have multiple meanings, and then if you change the preposition, then the meaning of the phrasal verb is going to change completely. So I think there's a lot to learn when it comes to phrasal verbs and trying to use the correct one in conversation, because that's the other thing. Phrasal verbs are quite common in just casual conversation. But today, we're going to focus on three-word phrasal verbs, which I think may sound a little more daunting, may sound a little like, oh no, I have enough trouble with two words, but I think it may actually even be a little easier. And as we go through this lesson, I'm going to talk about why and how you can learn the meaning of these phrasal verbs and then try and go out and use them, because I think that it might be a little easier. I do want to say a quick hello to some of you who are with me. If you are new, please write to me in the comments. Tell me your name. Tell me where you're from. Write to me in the chat. I always love hearing from new people, but I also like seeing some familiar names as well. Hello, Sleepwalker, Angela, Judith, Takaya, Juliana, Yashar, good to see you. As we go through the lesson, I'll try to give some more shout-outs because I want you guys to participate. I'm going to give you some questions. I want you to think of the answer. Write it in the chat. Even if you're watching this later, write it in the comments. It's always good to practice because that is what interactive English is all about. So, as I mentioned, we're talking about three-word phrasal verbs, dun, dun, dun. And I kind of want to start out by just basically breaking down and showing you, well, what is a three-word phrasal verb? Very similar to a two-word phrasal verb. You have a verb, and you have plus a particle and another particle. And I said particle right here. Most of the time, I think people think of preposition, which oftentimes the verb is followed by a preposition. Sometimes it could be followed by an adverb, which is why technically people would say, well, you have a verb plus a particle. And I've given you this example right down here. This is very common because I think the phrasal verbs that I'm going to talk to you about in this lesson, I think they're very useful because these are words, these are phrases that you're going to hear quite often, all right? So look forward to. If you look forward to something, it just means that you are excited about some future event. Something is going to happen and you say, wow, I look forward to it. I look forward to traveling during my next vacation. So this is a perfect example of a three-word phrasal verb, and I think many of them you are probably going to be a little familiar with. I'll give you one more example. I look forward to speaking with you, all right? And the reason I could say that and give you that example is because, yes, if you would like to speak with me, I want to make a quick little announcement. I'm getting ready to start another one of my Speak Up courses, which is a speaking course. You can see it right here. It's all about trying to help you speak confidently, speak clearly, speak naturally. Enrollment is now open, and classes are going to begin in August. There is a link down below in the description if you want more information or if you're interested in signing up. I've also pinned a comment here with the link as well. So really each week you're going to have a lesson with me. So you'll talk with me as well as some of your other classmates. Each week there is a different discussion topic. So you're going to learn to talk about a variety of different topics. We do different speaking activities. There's a lot included in the course, including weekly video lessons, pronunciation videos, lesson previews, a couple of audio lessons as well. So check that out if you would like to improve your speaking fluency, which is why I say I look forward to speaking with you, or I look forward to speaking with you. And the last thing I want to mention, oh yes, please, if you are going to sign up, you can use the code, I'll write this in the chat, use the code SPEAK10 to get a 10% discount. All right. So check out that link in the description for more information, and remember, use that code to get a 10% discount. I'll say another reminder at the end, but I want to jump into the lesson right now, and let's look at some of these phrasal verbs. I look forward to teaching you these phrasal verbs. The first part, what I've done, I want to start out, make it a little easier, and then as we go through this, it'll get a little more challenging. So I've given you an example of, well, the blank, that is the 3-word phrasal verb. And I'm trying to give you an example of it being used in context. Think about somebody actually saying this sentence right here. And then down below right here, I have given you the meaning of the phrasal verb. And I want you to think about, okay, what 3-word phrasal verb would complete that sentence and has the meaning to tolerate or endure something. You could say, I'm sick and tired of your crap. I'm not going to it anymore. All right, what do you think? Write your answers in the chat or in the comments if you're watching it later, and then we'll talk a little bit more about it. Sick and tired is it's a common binomial pair. It's a phrase that just means you're really exhausted and really frustrated with something, and you might hear somebody say, yeah, I'm sick and tired of your crap. I'm not going to it anymore. Excellent. I see some great answers. Yes, Carolina, Dipanjan, Anuwat, Gokvan, sorry if I mispronounced the name, put up with. That is the 3-word phrasal verb that we're looking for. It means that you are tolerating or enduring something. Oftentimes, I would say that, because I want to tell you a little bit about how you're going to use these in just general conversation. Oftentimes, I think you're going to use this in the negative, and you're talking about something that you are not going to tolerate anymore, you are not going to put up with it, or you don't want to put up with it anymore. So often, you will hear people use this when talking about the negative, saying that they can no longer endure this thing, and they're not going to put up with it anymore. Very common, very useful 3-word phrasal verb. Let's continue. Here's the next one. All right, again, think about the situation that somebody's actually saying this. All right, you lied and cheated, and I'm going to tell everyone what you did. You won't this. Again, that blank, that is your 3-word phrasal verb. And the meaning of this phrasal verb is to succeed in avoiding punishment for something. Okay, so think about, think about the meaning. You're putting it into that context. And what phrase are you going to use? Don't try to think about the 3 individual words. Think about it as a phrase. And one phrase, because, again, these are words that are used together to complete this sentence, this phrase. Excellent. Yes. Yufla, Takayao, Shikai, perfect. Limor, Angela, Yashar. To get away with something. If you get away with something, it means that, like it says down there, a lot of these meanings I've taken from Cambridge Dictionary. You succeed in avoiding punishment for something, you get away with it. And I think that statement that I said at the end is, it's a statement that you will hear maybe in a TV show or movie, somebody telling somebody else that you won't be able to avoid punishment. You're not going to get away with this. You're not going to get away with this. So excellent. Again, this is another very common 3-word phrasal verb, to get away with something. Here we go. Let's continue. And then I am going to switch up the way that I'm doing this quiz in just a little bit, just again, as I make it a little more difficult. So again, if you're just joining us right now, we are doing a lesson on 3-word phrasal verbs. I think it's very important. And if you enjoy learning about phrasal verbs, please go ahead, hit that like button, let me know. It tells me that I need to do more lessons like this. So here's another one. The meaning would be, I think this is another very common one. You're ending some type of romantic relationship. So think about the context right here. You should ask her out on a date. I heard that she with her previous boyfriend a few months ago. So what three-word phrasal verb, or again, think of it as a phrase, what phrase is going to complete that sentence? And I just realized I made a mistake. Well, I didn't make a mistake, but I kind of gave you part of the answer as I did this. I think I spotted it earlier, but I forgot to delete one of the words. So I gave you the last part of this phrasal verb, the third word. But yes, excellent. Bongwu, sleepwalker, dreary, Morgiana. The answer is to break up with. And again, you see, I forgot to delete with there. So I gave you that part of it. And right here, yeah, so you could get rid of one of those withs. So it shouldn't say with, but in this case, you remember that if you wanted to get technical, and I think many of you put that in your answer, we're talking about the past tense. So the main verb, that the verb is going to, you use it in the past or the present or the future. So in this case, we're talking about a few months ago, she broke up with her previous boyfriend a few months ago. Broke up with, that is the correct answer. To break up with, that is the three-word phrasal verb. You're ending a romantic relationship. Here is the next one. What do you guys think? Children should not their parents. It's disrespectful. So think about the situation. What phrase would you put in there? What could children possibly do? There's quite a few things that would be disrespectful. And the meaning of this phrase is to respond in really a rude and, defiant manner. And you are, I don't want to give you the answer, make it too easy, but I'm giving you the context, I'm giving you the meaning. So what three words, what phrase would best complete this sentence? Excellent. I already seen some great answers. Anko, Lemur, Yashar, Angela. The correct answer is to talk back to. To talk back to someone means that you are talking to them in a very rude and defiant manner. Oftentimes you're using this you're talking back to someone in a position of authority. So in this example that I gave you, parents are in a position of authority. Children should respect their parents in general. They should not talk back to them. So thinking about it along those lines, if you're thinking about a position of authority, you might hear people talk about, students talking back to their teacher, person in a position of authority, or maybe an employee talking back to their boss, again, a position of authority. So it's not something you would use like, you're talking back to your friend. It's really used in that context of somebody is in a higher position, some position of authority, and you're talking back to them. All right, let's keep going. I told you that I'm going to make it a little more challenging as we go through this. I hope that you're familiar with some of the phrasal verbs that we just talked about. I will review them at the very end and show you them as well as the meaning, just to remind you once more. But it's always good to practice, kind of really helps you put it up there in your active memory so that you can more easily use it when the time comes and you're having a conversation and you want to use these three-word phrasal verbs. So the way that I'm going to make it a little more challenging right here is I'm giving you a sentence, I'm not giving you the meaning, and I'm giving you two of the three words. So I'm giving you part of the phrasal verb, and you need to think of, the context, try to determine, what is the meaning of this phrasal verb? And I think that's going to help you. Once you kind of can put it in context, the meaning, you can start thinking of words to put in there to complete that phrase. So yesterday we out of milk. So I went to the store to buy some more. So that is your three-word phrasal verb. There's only one word missing, which you can tell is that verb right there. So what do you think? Hello. Oh, excellent. Lolly, Gertrudis. Good to see you guys. Vicky and Gustav. Excellent. Thanks for joining. So I think as I was kind of going through this, you guys are putting it in here perfect. We're talking about the verb run, but again, if you want to be very specific about this example, yesterday, you would need to use the past tense. Yesterday, we ran out of milk, so I went to the store to buy some more. To run out of something means that, well, you've just used up all the supply of something. I think you would hear people use this phrasal verb talking about maybe food, something that might be in your refrigerator, like this example right here. Oh, we ran out of milk, or you run out of something else, and then you need to go to the store and get more. People might use it thinking about, well, like a car, and maybe you're getting low on gas, and you can say, oh, we're running out of gas. You're using up the supply. It's almost done. So those, I think, are some common ways in which you may hear people use this phrasal verb, to run out of. Awesome. So maybe you guys rock that one. Maybe it was not as difficult as I thought, but that's okay. I think the ones I started with, I think, are definitely a bit more common. I am going to get into some more phrasal verbs that are probably not as common, so it may be a little more challenging in that regard. So here's the next one. Again, I'm giving you the verb, and those two particles that follow, the next two words, are missing. So what do you think? See if you can come up. Oh, no, wait, I don't want to. I almost just used it in context there. Anyway, she's so imaginative. I don't know where she comes. Her ideas. So we're missing two words. I basically kind of just gave it away a little bit, but I think many of you know it. This is another one I think is a pretty common phrasal verb. The answer, yes, just give some quick shout outs to Kyle, Sleepwalker, Simple Guy, Zine, Gertrudis. We're talking about come up with. She's so imaginative, I don't know where she comes up with her ideas. When you come up with something, you suggest or think of an idea or plan. And often, I think you might hear people use this if they're kind of stating that, hey, we need to come up with a plan. And somebody might say that if you're talking to a group of people or another person, like, what do you think? We need to come up with a plan. Do you have any ideas? And this, again, I think is a fairly common phrase that you might hear somebody use, to come up with. The next one, and I promise I won't give away this this answer. This one I think is a little more challenging. So again, think about the context. It was an unhealthy relationship. So she eventually decided to out her partner. You have those three words. In this case, I'm giving you the middle word, out. So what two words are you going to put around it to form this phrase? It's an unhealthy relationship. She decided to what? Her partner. So think about, again, think about the meaning, really. Like, what is she doing in this situation? And then try to think about the phrase. It might be a little easier than you just trying to think about words to try to plug in there. So this one, I said it's a little more challenging. It's not as common. And the reason why I say it's maybe not as common is because it really is referring to a specific situation, such as like some relationship, and this may happen. So I'm going to tell you the answer because I haven't seen the answer. When some people were saying like get out of, I could say if you were trying to get out of a relationship, sure, absolutely you could use that to get out of a relationship. But in this case, I'm talking about somebody's partner, all right? Their boyfriend, girlfriend, husband, wife. It's an unhealthy relationship, so you might say, yes, exactly. Vicky, Gustav, excellent. Walk out on. So I said that this is very specific, like because you're talking about that situation. To walk out on, you can see the meaning down there. When you suddenly leave your husband, your wife, your partner, and end this relationship, and you like they walk out on you. So again, if you were saying like if you're referring to a relationship, you might say to get out of a relationship. But if you're talking about the person, in this case, like her partner, you could she walked out on her partner, or somebody could walk out on their husband, walk out on their wife, and they are leaving. So it's not as common because it is more specific, but still, it's a good phrase to know. Hopefully, for some of you, this may be a new phrase, and you've just learned it, which would be great. If that's true, please hit that like button. Let's look at the next one. I appreciate you helping me on such short notice. You more than for yesterday's mistake. So here in this, again, I'm giving you the last part of this phrasal verb. I'm giving you the last word. You need to come up with the verb plus another particle. Think of the situation. I appreciate you helping me on such short notice. Somebody's very grateful. They're very happy. And then they're making this comment. You more than for yesterday's mistake. So they're saying this to another person who apparently they made some kind of mistake previously. And it's like the other person is saying that it's okay. And as I talk my way through this, I'm kind of giving you the meaning of this 3-word phrasal verb. But some of you have shown that you knew the answer. Excellent. Takayo, Anna, Simple Guy, Amandeep. We're talking about made up. You made up for something. And again, because we're talking about something that happened yesterday's mistake, we use it in the past tense. I appreciate you helping me on such short notice. You more than made up for yesterday's mistake. The meaning of it, if you make up for something, it's like you're making something that was bad and you're making it kind of become good. You're making it so it's not as bad. So if there was a problem and you make up for it, then you've done something right and you've made the situation less worse, or maybe you've turned around and you've just made it into a good thing, positive thing. All right, so let's keep going. I have a few more, some more questions for you as we learn some more phrasal verbs. Again, I hope some of these are new for you, and we will review at the end. The way that I'm going to do this is we're going to kind of walk through it. I'm going to start by giving you the meaning, and think about maybe if you can think about a phrase that has this meaning, and then I'm going to give you a sentence using it in context to make it a little easier, and then finally I'll just tell you the answer. So the meaning of this phrase, this 3-word phrasal verb, is to think that someone is less important than you. And again, this one I would say probably not as common. It's used in specific instances, but to think that someone is less important than you. What do you think? All right. Let me know. All right. So to think that someone's less important, let me give you the example. Well, I don't know. I think I just gave you the answer quickly. The neighborhood is so pretentious. Some people, others, because they are not so wealthy. All right, here's the context. Maybe some of you saw the answer as I put it up there quickly. Pretentious, again, this would be a word like a context clue if you're trying to figure this out. Pretentious means that basically somebody, they have their nose up in the air. They think less of others. So in that case, if we're talking about some neighborhood, some group of people, and they think, well, these people are not as wealthy, then they might them, which again, excellent. Just to give you, we're talking about the phrase Angela, Yashar, Shikai Wang, Amandeep, Lali, Perfect. King Kong, or not, almost King Kong. We're talking about the answer is look down on. If you look down on someone, you basically, it's like you think that someone is less important than you, and you'd say that they look down on this. But I told you it's probably not as common. It's used in this specific instance where you have one person or a group of people who might think that they are more important and they look down on others. Of course, this is not a good thing, so it's not a phrasal verb that I hope that you are want to use, because it's not a good thing to look down on others. Let's go to the next one. So the meaning of this one is to do whatever is necessary to stay level or equal with someone or something. And I think this one is a bit more common. You do whatever is necessary to stay level or equal with someone or something. What do you think could this phrase possibly be? Let me give you an example sentence to make it a little easier, so you can try and think about how it's used in context. You know the meaning. Working and studying, it's too much for me right now. I'm having trouble my classes. Okay? The situation, somebody's trying to work, they're trying to study, perhaps at university or somewhere else, and they're saying it's too much. I'm having trouble my classes. What is the answer? All right, excellent. I think some of you, excellent, perfect. Great job. Fulia, Yashar, Alexander, Mohammed. We're talking about, now if you want to get technical, the answer is keep up with. But in this case, if you were filling it, completing it, you're having trouble keeping up with. I'm having trouble keeping up with my classes, because in that situation, you're having trouble doing something. So keeping up with. I'm having trouble keeping up with my classes. So to keep up with means to do whatever's necessary. You're trying to stay at that level or equal with someone or something. And I think this is I think this is probably more common. There are different situations in which you could use this phrasal verb. If you are talking about you're having trouble trying to understand something or maintain a certain pace, you're like, oh, I just can't keep up. I just can't keep up with the class. Or even doing something physical, like say that you're running and you're running with somebody else, and that person's faster than you, and you're having trouble staying with them, and I can't keep up with you, is another way that you could use this three-word phrasal verb. So I think this is a good one to know. Then we have this meaning right here, to tell the truth or to admit that you are responsible for something. I think this one's a little more challenging. Every time I say that, I feel like everybody gets the correct answer. But when you're telling the truth and you're basically admitting, like, yes, all right, it's my fault, it's my responsibility. What phrase has this meaning? 3 words. All right, let me give you a sentence to make it a little bit easier. All right, excellent. Rod, thank you for becoming a member. Thank you, I appreciate it. So here is the sentence. Whenever I make a mistake, I don't try to make excuses. I try to it. So I'm giving you, you know the meaning, and I'm really kind of giving you a situation in which it's not, maybe, I don't know, hopefully it'll help you as you kind of see it used in context. But perhaps picture them saying this. Maybe I'm talking to you like, whenever I make a mistake, I don't try to make excuses. I try to it. All right? What do you think? I haven't seen too many answers for this one, which makes me think people are thinking about it. Maybe it's still processing, or maybe they're not sure, don't want to take a chance. I told you this is a little more challenging. The correct answer is to own up to something. That's what I was going for. If you own up to it, you're like that meaning. You're saying, okay, yes, I am responsible. It's completely my fault. I'm going to own up to it. I think often, if I want to give you another example as to how somebody may use it, perhaps maybe you're trying to give somebody advice, and you're telling them, like, look, admit the truth. You need to own up to it. Tell them, this person, it was your responsibility. You should own up to it. Own up to it. Oftentimes people might follow it with your mistakes, like own up to your mistakes. I try to own up to my mistakes, but it is difficult. I think it's difficult for all of us to own up to our mistakes and to admit that you might be wrong about something. But from time to time, I think it's important. We need to own up to it. All right, then we have this one, which I think, I don't know how much help this is going to be. These are definitely more challenging. I told you as we go through this, it's going to get a little more difficult. The meaning is to seem to be. All right? To seem to be. And hopefully, maybe let me give you some more context. I had heard bad things about him, but when we met, he, a stand-up guy. And if you say that last part, stand up, if somebody's a stand-up guy or a stand-up person in general, it basically means that they're, a good person, a nice person. And it's an informal phrase. Oftentimes people, I think, use it with guy and say, oh, this person's a stand-up guy, that they're a nice person, a good person. So that's what that means. So think about the context. I heard bad things about him, about this person, but then we met and he, a stand-up guy. Think about a phrase. What do you think you would put in there that has that meaning? To seem to be. And wow, I'm impressed. I thought this one was going to be a bit more difficult. But seems like some of you know the answer. Yes, Fulia, Brayon, perfect. So the phrase that I was looking for, is comes across as. So, or in this case, came across as. We're talking about the past tense. Sorry, but when we met in the past, he came across as a stand-up guy. And it means that this person seemed to be a good person. I would say in this case, if you're saying somebody comes across as something, often I think it's used, you're probably referring to people. Somebody comes across as, and then you're referring to maybe a part of their personality. Like this person, they came across as a stand-up guy. Or maybe you could say, she came across as a very hard worker. And you're referring to some part of their personality, and you could say it seems to be this way. This person came across as this way, and you're kind of sharing your opinion. So this one is a little trickier. So I said at the end I want to review them right now and kind of just talk a little bit about why I think this hopefully could be a little easier. So these were the answers to the first set of questions that I gave you. And one thing I think when you're thinking about learning these phrasal verbs, and you could try to think of them a little differently than two-word phrasal verbs, because again, with these, if the preposition changes, it is going to have a different meaning. But what I would recommend is think about it as just one phrase, put up with. And if you think about that entire phrase together, having that one meaning, don't focus too much on the individual words. Think about it as a phrase, learn it as a phrase, understand the meaning, and then try to think about how you may use it in context. I told you, that's a pretty common one, to put up with something. I said people often use it in the negative, saying, look, I'm not going to put up with this anymore. I'm not going to tolerate it. So first off, think about it as a phrase. The next thing I would say, let me show you the next ones. These were the next set of phrasal verbs that we talked about, is that these phrasal verbs are inseparable. So sometimes when you have these two-word phrasal verbs that might be transitive, which means they take a direct object. For example, put on. Put on is a phrasal verb. You put on shoes or put on clothes. It's transitive, so you can split the verb and the particle, or in that case, the verb and the preposition, put your shoes on, or put your clothes on. And you'd say that that phrasal verb is separable. If we're talking about three-word phrasal verbs, they're not separable, so you don't have to worry about putting the object in between the verb and the particle in this case. So this is one way in which I think three-word phrasal verbs are perhaps a little easier than trying to deal with and learn two-word phrasal verbs. And then here are the last set. I told you that I think I thought these were maybe a little more challenging because they may not be as common, perhaps because they're used in a specific instance, like to look down on someone. Of course, that's not a good thing. Keep up with, I think, is probably a little bit more common, and I just realized I made a mistake there. Remember, to keep up with, that's the wrong meaning. It is to stay at the same level or as someone or something, and you're trying to keep up. Own up to is one that I think was a little more challenging and come across as. So my hope is that you guys learned something new from this lesson. If you did, if you want to show us some love, I really appreciate, Rod, you becoming a member. There are links in the description to sponsor and support the channel. And the last thing, just as a quick reminder, if you would like to speak with me, many of you ask about that, I do have another speaking course. It's getting ready to start in August. There's a link to that as well in the description. It's all about helping you speak confidently, clearly, speak naturally. I've also pinned a comment, and just for good measure, I'll go ahead and throw the link in the chat right here as well, if you're interested in joining my speaking course and improving your speaking fluency. Thank you guys so much for joining me today. I hope that you enjoyed it, but most importantly, I just hope that when I do these lessons, that everybody's able to learn something new, just one thing new that maybe they didn't know before about the meaning of something. For example, we're talking about phrasal verbs, or perhaps maybe you learned a bit more about how it's used and when it's used. That makes me happy. All right, so it's been great seeing you guys again. I am going to start doing these live lessons more regularly now. I did take a bit of a hiatus, but I'll try to give you guys as much up-to-date information as to when they will be. So thank you so much for being here, Rod, Gertrudis, Lolly. I really appreciate it. To Kayao, Juliana, good to see both of you again. They were in the Speak Up course, and I got to talk with all of you directly, so I really know the two of you. And thank you, Sleepwalker, Joel, Manuel, just Nekla, trying to give some last-minute shout-outs, Morgiana, Christina, Demos, Simple Guy, Eloisa, Angela. All right, I'm going to wrap things up. Hope you have a wonderful